Pleasure and this is The Sound of Jojo. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the things I watched simply because Julie Andrews was in them and whether or not it was worth it. Now when I say worth it, what I mean was, did I like the movie independent of Julie being the star? Did I like it, or would it have held absolutely no interest for me had Julie not been in it? After I met Julie in 2013, I was desperate to see every movie this woman ever made. Nowadays, I'm not so fussed, and if there's something that really doesn't interest me, I won't watch it simply because she's in it. Aquaman. Especially since nowadays her roles are very, very small. And a lot of the time it's just voiceover work. While I wouldn't say Julie's film career is necessarily over, I don't think we're going to see her face on film again. Unless they make Princess Diaries 3. And maybe not even then. And I actually don't care if they make Princess Diaries 3 or not. I made a video about this a little while ago talking about the things I hadn't seen. But I've seen everything she made up until 2017 when she did Despicable Me 3. I've seen everything before that. But in this video I'm looking at it a bit more broadly. Yes, the reason I watched all those movies was because Julie was in them, but I like to think that some of them may have content that piqued my interest even without Julie's name attached to it. I like to think there are a few out there that I would have seen even if Julie hadn't been in them. So I guess really what that means is the musicals. So I guess long story short, we're looking at all the non-musical films. And I will also say before we go any further that even though my desire to watch every movie Julie made only came in 2013 after I met her, some of these movies I saw before then. The first one that I think is an absolute yes is Relative Values. This is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. It's so absolutely ridiculous, and a lot of the other stars in it are people that I really like. Colin Firth and Stephen Fry are always great, and as a fan of Criminal Minds, who started watching the show in season 8, it was really nice to see Jean Tripplehorn do something else. Second absolutely worth it movie is Tooth Fairy. Came for Julie Andrews, stayed for Billy Crystal. I know this is probably one of Julie's lowest rated movies, but I freaking love it. The first scene where we get to meet Jerry, who's played by Billy Crystal, is just hilarious. In fact, quite often when I'm talking to my mum or my dad, if the conversation allows it, we will just start randomly quoting this scene and the bit about the amnesia dust. Quote the movie, never gets old. Also, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in a tutu. End of sentence. Number 3 on the yes list is Eloise at the Plaza and Eloise at Christmas Time. My favourite of the two is Eloise at Christmas Time. They're both just a lot of fun. Eloise is just hilarious. And even though she's annoying, it's in an endearing way. And it's clear that everybody at the hotel really does like her. The fourth absolute yes worth it movie was Little Miss Marker. Once again, this is just another totally heartwarming story, and there's a lot of really funny moments in it as well. So the final absolutely worth it one is Enchanted. Okay, am I cheating a bit? Yes, because Julie's the narrator and is there for all of 2 sentences, but it's still awesome. Twist on the traditional Disney fairy tale / rom-com. Awesome. James Marsden is everything in this movie. He is hilarious. Plus it's really cool to see all the Disney cameos in there. So many actresses who voice Disney princesses appear as cameos in the movie, and I love that. Moving on to the yes-ish category. These ones are basically movies that weren't really for me, but I can very much appreciate them and I am glad I saw them. And the first one is Hawaii. I talked about this in my Today in Julie Andrews history video about Hawaii last year, but it is just not my type of movie. Try not to get into controversial topics here, like religion, but basically this movie contains everything I hate about religion. The main character is just insufferable, and the story is all sorts of problematic. But it is, in an objective sense, a very good movie. It is well made, well acted, well directed, everything. So, while it isn't for me, I can definitely appreciate it and understand why people love it. Maybe I'd have liked it more if it was an hour shorter. So my second one for this category is Duet for One. I talked about this in another video, but hot take, I think this is the best performance she's ever given. Like the main character in Hawaii, Stephanie is pretty insufferable at times. So if Julie Andrews can make me hate a character, then that's a pretty damn good performance. So while I don't think I would have liked her as much had Julie not been playing her, it is a really, really powerful story. It is a really, really powerful story, and it is one worth watching. Honestly, I was kind of terrified to watch it at the beginning because of the subject matter, but I think independent of that, I think the subject matter makes it a really worthwhile watch. While it isn't really my type of movie, I am so glad I saw it because I think it is absolutely worth the watch. And while Julie makes it amazing for me, I don't think she's the reason it is amazing in a general sense. The third one that is a yes-ish is the pro shot of Victor Victoria. So the film's musical version that came out in 1995. I've talked about it before, but this musical is just a hot mess. The movie does everything better, so just go watch that. I really don't think Victor Victoria, the stage musical, needed to exist. Given that I love the movie so much, I am glad they filmed it, and I am glad I have seen it. And the last yes-ish is more of an honourable mention, but that is The Princess Diaries. Now, if you've watched my other videos, you know I kind of hate The Princess Diaries. But I didn't always. Back when I was a kid, I loved it just as much as most of the other people my age. My biggest problem with it is not the quality of the movie itself, but because my generation knows Julie for this movie. And in an objective sense, it's not that great. But this is what I meant, that some of these movies actually came before I met her. This being one of them. While Princess Diaries really is my generation's defining Julie movie, I watched it because Julie was in it. I knew who Julie was going in, and I watched it because she was in it. And I really did enjoy it as a kid. Then I went to uni and that ruined it for me, and now I'd just rather watch the CinemaSins video. So the next tier is the It's Complicated tier. So the first one of these is Despicable Me. I saw Despicable Me 3 solely because she was in it, knowing that just by watching all the interviews I had beforehand, I had actually seen the entirety of Julie's one scene. And so I came out feeling like I'd wasted 2 hours of my life. The Despicable Me movie I don't remember a whole lot from. I do definitely remember Julie's scenes though. Despicable Me 2 was always my favourite Despicable Me movie. It's the one she's not in. I don't think that Despicable Me movies are ones I would have sought out had Julie not been in them, but I would have probably seen them anyway. I feel like it could have very much been a situation if they were on TV at some point and we decided to watch it just because there was nothing else on. I think I would have seen those ones either way. The other 3 on this It's Complicated list are complicated because they're intrinsically linked to Julie's performance, kind of. And they are, of course, On Golden Pond, One Special Night, and The Americanization of Emily. Basically, the things that make these It's Complicated is because James Garner and Christopher Plummer are in them. And those men mean something to me because they worked with Julie. And honestly, I actually don't know. I don't think I would have seen these ones had Julie not been in them. But yes, it was probably worth it. And finally, the no tier. These are the ones that I really don't like, or I just don't get anything from them, and I honestly don't get why people do. So the first 4, I guess, are 10, SOB, That's Life, and The Man Who Loved Women. Going from favourite of those 4 to least favourite, it would be That's Life, 10, The Man Who Loved Women, and SOB. SOB is my least favourite Julie movie that I've ever seen. I just don't get them. Especially that one. I don't get why people like them. I know it's supposed to be satire, but I don't get it. Also, not to mention, it's basically the same movie 4 times. So if you've seen one, you've kind of seen them all. Next on the no list is A Fine Romance, and I talked about that last week, so just go watch that. The next no is Torn Curtain. Honestly, this movie was so confusing. It took me several viewings, watching it with my parents and them explaining a bit to me, and reading the novelization twice to fully comprehend what was going on in this movie. and I'm honestly not sure I've got everything even now. Not to mention that while Julie's performance is amazing, she's kind of miscast. And so is Paul Newman. As far as Hitchcock stuff goes, I think I'll stick with Rebecca. Then we have Our Sons. This one is kind of like Duet for One for me, but to a much lesser degree. The subject matter is really powerful, and it's always lovely to see Hugh Grant, but I don't think it was amazing in the objective way that Duet for One is. Next up, sorry Blake, I've got to put another one of yours in there. That is The Tamarind Seed. This one's fine, I guess. Plus, just like Blake made this movie another 3 times, Julie had kind of already made this story before. It was called The Americanization of Emily. And while that is in the It's Complicated tier, I liked it a lot more. And I don't think that was solely on Julie. And the final no is Julie's movie debut. I'll probably make a Julie Andrews history video about it at some point this year, but that is The Singing Princess. This one is actually a really interesting story from a behind the scenes perspective, but as far as the actual content, it's basically an old-style Disney movie. This one was made by an Italian film company, even though nothing about the source material or the content is really Italian, like, at all. You can see this movie by watching 3 separate Disney movies. This movie has the art style of Snow White, the story of Aladdin, and the voice of Mary Poppins. Literally. Now, Snow White and Aladdin were never huge favourites of mine, but I'd rather watch them than watch this. And that's everything for today. There are all the movies I watched solely because Julie was in them, and whether Julie was the only thing I liked about it. Let me know in the comments, is there a movie you watched just because Julie was in it, and did you like it for reasons other than Julie? Or if that's happened with any other actor or situation. Thanks for watching, stay safe, feel free to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my video next time. So long for a while!